2020 presidential hopefuls will face their biggest test of this election cycle in just 4 days, Super Tuesday, when delegates from 14 states, including Massachusetts, will be awarded to candidates. The Republican primary ballot in Massachusetts will include former Governor Bill Weld, who's challenging President Donald Trump for the party's nomination, and 8 names will be on the Democratic ballot. Tonight, we take a closer look at the 2 candidates pushing hard to win here, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. For the past week, a UMass Lowell poll had the 2 neck and neck in this state among likely Democratic primary voters. Now, a poll from WBUR and Mass Inc. has Sanders ahead of Warren, 25% to 17%. Many of the candidates have crisscrossed the country, making the case for why they're the best pick for the Oval Office. Ahead of the New Hampshire primary earlier this month, Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle was among many people in this region who headed to the Granite State. She was there to knock on doors and try to garner support for Senator Elizabeth Warren's 2020 presidential bid. I asked LaChapelle earlier today why she's supporting Warren.
Elizabeth gets things done. I mean, plain and simple. I met her first in 2012 when she was running for Senate. I remember very clearly what she saw needed to happen in the Senate, especially around health care. We are less than a decade into her being a senator, and she's had several progressive wins, but also has worked across the aisle, most recently on the bill to make hearing aids available over the counter. I see the last 10 years really makes the foundation for a great president. And I'm thrilled that she decided to run. Her plans have substance. It's big structural change and not theoretical. And that really has characterized Elizabeth's entire career. And I think back in her work at the Consumer Protection Bureau. It's like $12 billion returned to consumers and the work on bankruptcy.
Yeah, something she helped to form. But you mentioned change.
Yeah.
Change this week from the Boston Globe editorial board, which
Right.
came out in support of Elizabeth Warren, as I'm sure you're familiar.
Yes.
It was interesting to look back because in 2018, the Globe did not support even the idea of Senator Warren running for president.
Right.
Then ahead of New Hampshire, the Globe kind of went against tradition, didn't editorialize in favor of a specific candidate, and ahead of New Hampshire, and here we are. They've supported her. And they said this in part, quote, Warren is uniquely positioned to accomplish serious reform without sacrificing what's working in our economy and innovation ecosystem. She would get under the hood to fix the engine, not drive off a cliff, but also not just kick the tires. What do you envision an Elizabeth Warren presidency looking like?
Well, I mean, one of the things that's just so attractive about Elizabeth's campaign and what I believe she'll do in the Oval Office is that she has change in mind that's well supported across the country when you look at healthcare, when you look at the environment, when you look at universal child care, but she has a plan to get it done. You know, the wealth tax, 2 cents, off of billionaires' money after their first 50 million. I mean, that's just amazing. And what it funds, it puts $800 billion back into our public education system. And she knows the economics behind it. She surrounds herself with the very best staff and experts, and she will get it done. And she did get it done, as we've seen in the Senate and as we saw when she was working down in D.C. on consumer protection. I have great confidence. She will. She doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
You mentioned that tax on billionaires. That's one of the things that she's been criticized for, going after people who are in that upper echelon income bracket. Do you think that would be one of the things that people would continue to attack her on if she gets the nomination?
I think maybe from the other side of the aisle. On the extreme conservative, I don't believe there's any other way really to produce the change and increase the quality of life of every American citizen and resident, but also, getting, really using today's profits, like her marijuana plan, to go back and correct, 25 years of the war on drugs and over-policing neighborhoods which are clearly in economic distress. Her plans are very clear of how it will get done.
You mentioned marijuana. Easthampton is one of the few communities that has a dispensary up and running right now. Senator Warren's plan looks at some of the things that Massachusetts tried to roll out, looking at social equity and racial justice within the marijuana industry. Massachusetts, it's no secret, has sort of tripped in the implementation of that. It's been problematic. With the benefit of hindsight, are there things that you've noticed as mayor of Easthampton that you think could have been adjusted and, you know, sort of feed that up the chain to see if maybe those changes could come in at the federal level?
Sure. I mean, going into the opening of our first retail cannabis dispensary, we were very focused on heightened crime, needed security, how cash and product would get in and out of our community, how it would affect schools, the system. What we found out looking back was really how to truly open and level the playing field in the industry. And Easthampton in particular would have had a more competitive market for cannabis. We only still have one cannabis dispensary open. We've got a real concentration in capital in that industry on the very top. And they're not local folks. When I look at Elizabeth's plan, you know, she's not just looking to flip a switch and make marijuana federally legal. She's looking to open a door and allow states more flexibility to create plans and access to marijuana in the industry that is equitable and more fair without federal interference. And, you know, if Massachusetts could get a mulligan, the control of capital and social inequity in the business is one thing I'd really like to see. And I think that Elizabeth's plan is going to allow us to do that in Massachusetts.
Polls have shown leading up to Super Tuesday, which is coming up on Tuesday, that Senator Warren and Senator Bernie Sanders were either neck and neck. Now Senator Sanders appears to have clicked ahead a little bit in the polls. According to the latest data, Senator Sanders decided to come to Massachusetts. He'll be in Boston tomorrow. He's in Western Massachusetts tonight. What do you make of the fact that he's making such a strong showing in Massachusetts?
Well, I think one, Elizabeth is here all over the state all the time. So Sanders, just looking at the polls, is, you know, wanting to come to Massachusetts as a neighboring state. As far as the polls are concerned, I mean, less than 3% of the total delegates needed to be the nominee have been decided. I find it interesting in the press that they will pair up one candidate against another, but really I think not take in the full consideration of this primary. Who knows what's going to happen? There's so many candidates with so many ideas that are very credible. I have respect for all of them. You know, the difference, what puts me over the line with Elizabeth, though, is she knows on day one how she's going to get it done.
One of the ways that in the debate this week in South Carolina that Senator Warren chose to differentiate herself was sort of point out some of the differences between herself and Senator Sanders. And to her point, she raised several times, she felt like she had a stronger plan, to your point, get things done. She raised Medicare for all, which she and Senator Sanders both champion. But if Senator Warren were elected president, she would still need to face the stark realities that Senator Mitch McConnell has called this Medicare for none, sort of a not over my dead body, only over my dead body will this get done sort of approach. How would she navigate that staunch opposition in the Senate?
I think she would take, I know she would take a transitional approach. Medicare for all is not something that is just going to happen. It's not a flip of the switch. I don't want the people in Easthampton to all of a sudden lose the benefits they have while we figure out a new system. I see
Massachusetts currently has the most number of enrollees in its state system. Absolutely.
And we want to make sure that transition is smooth. And we also don't want to get kicked back from the states like we saw under the ACIA, which was not written and passed as a perfect piece of legislation. But Elizabeth will take the strongest pieces of that right now, keep it in place, use executive order power to protect people with pre-existing conditions. And she also has a plan on the website that talks about transition to Medicare for all. And I think that's really important. You know, you saw out in Nevada, the Culinary Union didn't endorse And a part of the reason is that Medicare for All had less benefits than their own union's benefits. And they weren't seeing a plan from a person that they had endorsed before of how they still were going to be okay. And Elizabeth's plan really outlines the transition steps and how we can get to Medicare for All, a high quality medical plan for everyone in the country. It's not overnight, but nothing is. You're talking about billions, trillions of dollars.